Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And today I'm going to talk about how crazy I am. Actually, I am going to tell a little story about the insanity that was Rachel version 1.0 when I was in college. And so I wanted to talk about the concept of sanity, insanity, what it means to me, how I define it, and hopefully put you onto some thought-provoking ideas yourself, and you can think about what insanity means to you. And if you are an alcoholic, um, has there been a transition in your life from what felt like insanity to sanity? And if there hasn't been, what are your ideas around it right now? Because I wouldn't say that when I first got sober that I was like, oh yeah, I was cray cray back then, and now I'm totally cool. I'm totally sane. It was years before I started to realize, I really was crazy. Like, I really did not have a grasp on reality. But it took me going through the steps of the program and going to meetings and listening to stories and honestly, listening to newcomers that come in and they are talking about, they're saying things that I remember thinking. And as I hear it now, I'm like, oh dear, they have a lot of work to do, you know? And that's what's important about newcomers is it reminds me how far I've come, that I always am going to have work to do. And that if I can share my experience, strength, and hope, then maybe I can help that newcomer figure it out a lot faster than I did. So, first, I just wanted to again promote the book of the month. I didn't mention that yesterday for the second time, so I did want to mention the book of the month is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl. It has been recommended by a couple of folks, so I wanted to jump right in, and I have already listened to half of it. Like, it's only been 2 days, and I just couldn't stop listening to it. It's really intriguing so far in the first 3 hours. So I think it's going to be a great book. I might listen to it a couple times this month since it's such an easy listen. And I think there's a lot there. So it wouldn't hurt to listen to it a couple times, probably, if I have time. And yeah, and then the listener challenge for May is our creative expressions. So think of something that you want to create this month and take a picture of it before you start. So if you're transforming something like a piece of furniture, or if you are painting a picture, or you're knitting something, just take a picture before and a picture after. And I'd love to see them. If you could send them to me, I'd love to put them on the website. If you're too shy to not want me to put it on the website, I'd love to see it because I do feel like we're a community. And I think that expressing ourselves creatively is just a really healthy way to travel through recovery. And it's been really helpful for me. Now that I'm actually able to use my eyes a little bit more, and I'm having a little more energy, I'm getting excited about it. So I have to tame my excitement. I'm not feeling very well today. Later, like this evening, I think I've been doing too much, and it's Friday, so hopefully I can get some rest. Tomorrow I have a bunch of women coming over in my program, and we're going to have a meeting at my house. We're going through the Women's Way Through the Steps. And so I think we're on step 2. And some of this that I want to talk about today comes from that reading that I listened to from A Women's Way Through the Steps. So I want to talk about being anchored in reality through sobriety. So there is this transformation that was clear to me, or it is clear to me now, that I went from freaking chaos in my head to a lot of clarity. And that clarity, I have noticed most recently, is allowing me to articulate what it was like and what it's like now. And it seems that it's been helpful. My phone has been starting to ring where people have been reaching out to me and saying, "Hey, I heard this. Can we talk about it?" So I love it. If you have my number, you're welcome to call me. Otherwise, you can email me at rachel@recoverydailypodcast.com. And or you can find me on social media, and I am on there every day for a little bit at least, and I check my messages. So I will share today how my sobriety has helped me to find an anchor in my life. And my life before sobriety seemed very unfair. It seemed very much like I was getting what I deserved, you know? So for many of us in alcoholism, when we're in active alcoholism, it colors our view of the world. And, or you could say, takes the color out of the world. And everything is just appears to be in black and white and is very bleak. And I remember feeling like life just wasn't good and it was never going to be good. And my perception of life was heavily tinted by my own actions and behaviors. It was just like a cycle that was feeding itself. And I felt like I deserved it all. I deserved everything that happened to me. When I know now that I have a disease, and people that do not have alcoholism don't sometimes believe that it is a disease. And sometimes we hurt people so bad that they believe that we deserve it all. We deserve everything that happened to us. So, because, at the end of the day, it is us. It is us that behaves and makes these poor decisions. And isolation for me was a big effect of my alcohol. I used isolation as my 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 overprotective shield that would keep me from asking for help or accepting help. And in doing so, I was really just making life harder for myself. The more that I drank, the more unfair life seemed, the more that my reaction to that was negative and kept feeding it. I was in a cycle that was not going to end well. And when I entered into, it's a miracle, right? I say that a lot. It's a miracle. And when I was able to get into the rooms of AA and seeing these people in the rooms that were not drinking, and they were laughing and having a good time, and they were all wholesome. They were all wholesome and just like, I was like, these are not my people. My people are the people that are at the bar. Those are my people. The people that just fly by the seat of their pants and just have fun and don't care, those were my people. So trusting in the program and the people in the program did not feel good to me. It didn't feel right. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I just wanted to stay in my own little world. And I felt like it was my own little world. And and in a way I had built my own little world and I didn't let anybody into it. I remember one day that's sticking out in my head right now where I went to a bar that was maybe like a mile from my house, maybe 2 miles from my house. And I just spent the afternoon there by myself. I spent the afternoon there and I played darts with strangers and I played um the game where you throw the beanbag into the whole cornhole. I played that with strangers. Honestly, I think back and I'm like, they must have thought I was just some weird lady that was there by myself. I don't know. It's very strange to me now that I think back. But because I was in my own little world and I just felt like I wasn't bothering anybody. And I was just in my own little corner. And when I think of that memory right now, I'm like, I wonder how many people I actually was bothering that day. Um, and I didn't want to find a new way of life. How lonely was I that I went to this bar by myself and hung out with these strangers? It's very odd. Anyway, insanity, that's what we're going to talk about today. So I just kept showing up for meetings for my recovery program because that's what other sober people told me to do. And at some point, I slowly realized that I didn't have to navigate my life by myself. I realized as I kept listening and as I kept watching the people in the meeting and outside of the meetings, the people like when we would meet and have like a district picnic for the program, as I saw people helping each other, I was slowly beginning to see that we're figuring life out together. And I heard in a meeting once, I've heard it a ton since then, but I remember the first time I heard it, somebody said, we don't have a brochure for life. Like, there is no right way to do this. And I was thinking, it never occurred to me. It never occurred to me until then that everybody doesn't know what they're doing. It wasn't just me. And I didn't have to figure it out by myself. I could join this team of people in recovery and we could figure it out together. I could ask people, what did you do when this happened? How did you stay sober when you went to a work event? How did you deal with your kids when they got into high school and you were sober? Um, what did you do when, somebody in your family didn't understand that alcohol is a disease? These things, all these are just a few examples, but life, life on a daily basis, I don't have to figure it out by myself anymore. I can trust that I have whatever I need to manage. But if I need help, I just pick up the phone and call somebody. And I say, this is what's going on with me. What do you think? And I always used to be like, I don't need to hear what anybody else thinks. I know how to do it. I have all the answers. I know what's best for me. And that is it's not it's just not worth struggling over. It's like having Chat GPT available to me as someone with vision challenges and just not using it and surfing the internet by myself instead of just asking who I call Chatty McChatterton. I use ChatGPT a ton. I even bought the like basic plan. It's like $20 a month because in the state that I'm in with my head, I can't scroll, I can't browse the internet. And that hasn't changed. It hasn't changed ever since I had my stroke. So now we have this thing called ChatGPT. Why don't I use it? Um, why don't I leverage this to make my life easier, better? You know, that is what reaching out to people in my fellowship does for me also. Why don't I just reach out and make things easier on myself? But submitting to that process was tough for me. It felt like I was giving up parts of myself that I clung to out of fear. I felt like I was giving up my independence. I was fearful, though, that when I asked, let's see, I just lost the concept in my head. I was fearful that, okay, in one respect, if I submitted and I let people help me, that I was not independent anymore. And on the other hand, I was fearful that if I did not do what people asked of me and not share my opinion, I was afraid of rejection and abandonment. Hopefully that makes sense. But I was fearful on both ends of the spectrum. And recognizing now because of my program that I have to be anchored to something, because just anchoring myself to me is like anchoring a ribbon on a balloon to the balloon. Like they're both going to float away. So recognizing that I can have a higher power, which can be anything outside of myself. It does not have to be God. It can be anything outside of myself, something that is bigger than me, something that helps me recognize that I don't have control over anything further than this finger can reach. I only have control of what's going on here inside of me. And that has been pivotal for me. It shifted my perspective from seeing everything and everyone as a threat to understanding that I can trust others and be a part of something bigger. We're not a bunch of human beings just being by ourselves. If we can recognize that we are just a piece of something bigger, it allows us to anchor ourselves to that. So AA in particular gave me what I'm calling today. I call things different things on different days, but today I was thinking it's like a paint by numbers template for living. And before sobriety, I wasn't anchored to anything. I was liable to endanger myself, even, and others, whether I was drinking and driving or doing any other kind of dangerous and chaotic behavior. I did not have an anchor. And that is, I feel like, what drove my insanity. So in the sobriety program, we talk about insanity. And when I first heard that, I was thinking, screw you guys. I'm not insane. You guys are insane, but I'm not insane. And then as time went on, I started remembering things that I did when I was drinking. And I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed. And I'm going to tell you a story of something that I'm embarrassed of. And I don't know that I've told anybody this, so we're just going to put it on the internet. That's what we're going to do. So to be clear, this story is about Rachel version 1.0, a version of myself that I no longer identify with. And this is a story from my college days that I want to use to illustrate the point of my insanity. And I'm not embarrassed to share it now, but I had been embarrassed to share it for years. And when I say it out loud, you guys are probably going to think, that's all? That's nothing. But and maybe you're not. Maybe you're going to be like, she is batshit crazy. But this memory teaches me a valuable lesson about who I was as an alcoholic, the insanity that I carried with me as long as I continued to fuel it with alcohol. So this story is actually dedicated to one of my listeners who loves to hear me tell my college stories, which I don't tell very often. So this is what happened. I was drinking. I was always drinking in college. So I drank every single day in college. My mom would send me money in an envelope. Sorry, Mom, I have to share this. So this was before we knew that I really had a problem, or maybe we just were ignoring it. I don't know. But I did not have a job or anything. I just was a full-time student. And so my mom would send me like $10 in the mail. She would like fold up a $10 bill and stick it into an envelope and sometimes put a sticky on it that said, I love you, Mom, or something like that. Or sometimes the sticky note would say, this is for beer and cigarettes, because she knew that's what I was going to spend it on. So I would drink Milwaukee's Best, because that was the cheapest. It was like $1.99 for a 6-pack. And if I smoked the cheapest cigarettes, I could get those super cheap for like 99 cents or something like that. So I could get 5 6-packs of beer, right, with $10. So, and then a lot of times I could drink for free because I was a chick and I was in a sorority. So I could drink for free a lot of times. Anyway, my point, I was drinking, as I always did. And I was particularly loaded at this time in the evening. And I believe it was late. I believe it was like 11 o'clock or something like that at night. And I had been dating a guy who decided that he didn't want to date me anymore. And so I was heartbroken. I was heartbroken by that. Um, and I was super depressed for, I don't know, it seemed like forever, but it was probably a week until I started liking somebody else. I don't know. Anyway, so on this night, I went to my car for some reason, and I may have even been planning on driving drunk. I don't know, but when I went to my car, I discovered that it was parked along a road. I discovered that my car, along with every other car down that entire street, had its window busted open with a bat. So I was like devastated. I was devastated. So I went, it was an excuse for me to run to that boy's dorm room. I know it doesn't make any sense. I decided this is an excuse for me to go talk to him and have him feel sorry for me or something. Like I wasn't thinking it through the way that I'm communicating it to you, but I know that's what I was thinking. I found an excuse to go talk to him and to have him help me or something. So I go to his dorm room, which happened to be on the fraternity floor, and I go running into his room, sobbing, and you have to help me. I don't know what I said. And when I turned into his room and I was in this state, he was sitting there with his new girlfriend, and there were like three other fraternity guys in that room. And did I stop? No. I just proceeded to make a complete fool of myself, crying and saying, "You have to help me. I can't believe this happened to me." Um, and I believe he said something like, "I'm sorry, I can't help you," or "What do you want me to do?" or something like that. And I I think I just somehow left and went back to my dorm room and probably passed out. But that's it. That's the end of the story. And as you can imagine, the next day when I had to walk into the, what do you call that? The dining hall, um, all of those fraternity brothers were all sitting at the table and eating breakfast. And there I am, hungover, and just had my hat pulled down low and acted like nothing happened. And I was embarrassed, and I never brought it up again. But I'm telling this story because I my behavior, it's just an example of what alcohol made me think differently. It made me think that things that were not possible were possible. It made me think that people felt different ways than they realistically would be thinking. I just had lost all touch with the reality. And this is something that I continued to do the entire time that I was drinking. That, if you think about that, that was in college. So, and I stopped drinking when I was 86, when I was 46. So, what? No, sorry. What am I? I'm 49, 42. I'm sorry. I had a stroke when I was 46. I stopped drinking when I was 42. And so that's a lot of years for me to behave in this irrational, crazy way. And I have so many more stories like those where it's just humiliating to think about it, to think about what these people must have thought of me. To this day, I don't talk to any of those people on even on social media or anything, but they've probably forgotten all about it. They've probably moved on and have never thought about it since then. But I carry that memory with me. And these are things that in sobriety, I get to learn how to let go of. So even though I'm talking about it, I'm able to talk about it because I've let it go. I don't feel it doesn't cause my heart to palpitate and cause me to be embarrassed anymore, because that's not me anymore. That was the old Rachel. That's Rachel version 1.0. And sobriety has allowed me to be able to just be like, that's really unfortunate. I did that. But yeah, there's nothing I can do about it now. And I just move on and know that those types of memories are lessons for me. They are lessons, and reasons why I don't pick up a drink today. One of the one of the thousands of reasons why I don't pick up a drink today. So I was thinking, you could think about what sanity means to you. Think about moments in your life where you may have had something that was humiliating or embarrassing, that was a kind of behavior that was just not reasonable, irrational behavior. Think about that. Think about, have you changed fundamentally since that memory? Or are there things about you that still drive that kind of behavior? So today, for me, sanity means being present. It means living out my values. It means being mindful and responding to life instead of reacting. Today, I know if somebody took a bat to my to my car, no matter what I do, when I see that my window's broken, it's not going to fix the window. My window is going to be broken no matter how I react. So instead, yeah, I'm probably going to be pissed. I'm allowed to be pissed. I'm not an angel, but I can also think more reasonably about what I need to do about it, how I solve the problem. And sanity is about having those moments where you can pause and choose how to proceed rather than letting old habits dictate your actions. Like, I don't need to be calling somebody and going off on them, or or getting in my car and just driving and screaming at, who knows? There's some real insane people out there, and I don't want to be one of them. So what does sanity mean in your life? How has your perception of sanity changed in your sobriety if you are a recovering alcoholic? And what I would love to know is, somebody who is not an alcoholic, do you have memories when you're younger of behaving in irrational ways? Are those types of insanities happening to people that aren't alcoholics due to immaturity and they just grow up and change with age? I don't know, because all of my insane behavior, I was drunk when I performed it. So I just don't know if that kind of stuff happens to people who aren't alcoholics. So tomorrow, I mentioned I have this ladies meeting and we're going to be talking about step 2. And I have this book. Where is it? Oh, I have this workbook. So this is what it's called, A Woman's Way Through the 12 Steps. And for step 2, it has a section where you can doodle. I have one of my listeners loves to doodle. I'm not a doodler, but this I thought was interesting. It says, when you think of yourself restored to sanity, what picture of yourself comes to mind? So I was thinking that would be a fun exercise on a rainy day. It's supposed to rain tomorrow. So I want to suggest here that you guys draw a picture. It can be a stick figure if you want. That's all I can do. A stick figure. Draw a picture of yourself insane, like how you behaved when you felt like you were insane, when you were drinking, if you are a recovering alcoholic, and draw a picture of yourself now in the sanity that you live in. Hopefully, you do feel like you live in sanity. If you don't feel like you live in sanity, take a picture, draw a picture of what it is you feel like you're living in, and see what the difference is between the two. And maybe call your sponsor and talk about it. What are the things that have grown in you, and what are maybe some things that need to be worked on? So doodle a crazy you versus a sane you, and stare out the window at the rain while you do it. Every day in sobriety is a step towards stability and sanity. And we need to keep moving forward, keep being anchored in reality. And I do that by not picking up a drink. And I think that maybe one day I will reach actual sanity. We will see. I don't know if I want to, actually. A little bit of insanity, I think, is healthy. So thank you all for listening today to the Recovery Daily podcast, and I will talk to you tomorrow.